Guys, like the Chris Lemons doing another NFL video today. Today, we are talking about every single NFL team's worst and best possible record for the 2020 NFL season. And now, the way I'm going to do this, crap, hope you didn't see that. So, in this column, we will have each team's worst possible record, right? And in this column, we will have their best possible record, so that way we can end on a high note. Alright, so we're going to do it division by division. We're going to do AFC West, NFC West, AFC East, AFC South, AFC North, and NFC North. I hope you're going to be here. This will probably be a long one, but I hope you will, stay with me. Alright, so the first team we're going to talk about is the Chiefs. Their worst possible record is 8-8. This is a complete collapse. I mean, I don't see this happening at all. But this is as bad as I'm willing to say it can get for them. They completely collapse. I'm saying like Patrick Mahomes, he just starts playing like you know how he normally like runs and like throws sideways. Whenever he does that now, it's just like complete terrible. I mean, he becomes a very bad quarterback. Like this first 2 years are just a fluke. I mean, Ertz gets worse. Their whole team basically collapses in on itself. 8-8 is about as bad as I'm saying it get. If you absolutely hate the Chiefs, like if you're a 49ers fan, if I don't know, you're like a Chargers fan, I don't know, if you absolutely hate the Chiefs, 8-8 is where you have to go. And by the way, if you've been watching my predictions videos, you know that I do worst possible record, and best possible record. This has nothing to do with that. For all you know, if you watch a Chiefs video, I said their worst possible record was 4-12. I don't know. I don't remember. Chiefs video was like a month ago. I don't remember any of that. Their best possible record is 14-2, which is far more likely than 8-8. But also with the talent that they have, Patrick Mahomes, this is basically them staying the same. But they do. I think this is like if they step it up again somehow, and they will somehow go 14-2, kind of cement themselves as becoming a dynasty. This Chiefs team that goes 14-2 probably also makes Super Bowl 55. All right, now. The Broncos, they are a team that I don't really believe in Drew Lock, but I do understand that he could take off. But I think the worst possible record is 4-12. This is kind of like if Drew Lock just plays kind of like he did last year. Philip Lindsay completely just is not very good. They're going to be relying on him a lot this year, especially with Drew Lock trying to he basically going to get better. So 4-12 is basically this whole team collapses. Maybe next year they'll be better. And then their best possible record is 10-6. This is Drew Lock plays basically as well as Broncos fans would like, and they probably make the playoffs. They might be battling out with the Chiefs for the last couple of weeks as to who's going to win this division, and I think they make the playoffs probably as a wild card round. All right, and then we move on to the Raiders. Now the Raiders are a team that could end up being 5-11. This is as if Derek Carr really, I know there's a lot of people who don't believe in him, and I kind of understand that he hasn't looked amazing in these past couple of years, and I think in a 5-11 season it really shows. I think Josh Jacobs really regresses. Their whole offense really takes a huge step down in the wrong direction, and their defense really doesn't do them any favors. I feel like 5-11 is absolutely terrible. Now, their best possible record is 10-6. This is because, Josh Jacobs, he plays like he did last year. He probably gets even better. Derek Carr, he starts playing like he did a few years back when he took him to the playoffs, like when he first got in the league. He starts playing like that again. He starts playing very well, and I think the Raiders could live up to the potential that they do have, and I think they could go 10-6, make the playoffs, and be battling it out. And in the Chargers, their worst possible record is 3-13. This is if, what's his name? Herbert, he is a complete and total bust. He is just absolutely terrible. He just runs this team to the ground. They realize that they wasted a draft pick. He's a backup for the rest of his career. Maybe he gets released. I don't know. This is like absolutely terrible. Tyrod Taylor just absolutely bombs those first couple of games. Herbert barely goes 3-10. I don't know. Their best possible record is 11-5. This is if
Tyrod Taylor plays like he did when he was on the Bills, which is really well. He plays like a very good quarterback, and then they bring in Herbert, and he plays like he goes crazy. I mean, he just starts throwing bombs. Keenan Allen, they take off. This whole defense, they take off. This is as good as I'm willing to say they are. Is 11-5. And then when they go 11-5, the Chargers definitely have potential to maybe overtake the Chiefs in this division. Out of any of these, they definitely have the biggest chance. And by the way, I know you've only seen 4 teams, but I've seen them all. And 8-8 is an insanely high worst record. I mean, you'll see what I mean. There's only like 3 teams that have a .500 or higher worst possible record, in my opinion. Moving on to the NFC West. The first off, we've got the Cardinals. This is a team that really, they have lots of talent. They have a quarterback who is getting better in Kyler Murray. And they have lots of talent, and they are prepared to take off. I mean, you've got Kenyon Drake on there in that running back position. You've got DeAndre Hopkins, arguably one of the best wide receivers in the league. But this is, if at all, I mean, DeAndre Hopkins, he gets worse in this new team. Kyler Murray, he starts playing terribly. He gets sacked like on every play. Not accurate at all. Plays somehow worse than last year. Kenyon Drake completely flops, and this whole team really goes 5-11, and they have to rethink everything. Are they gonna have to use DeAndre Hopkins as a trade tool? Are they gonna keep Kyler Murray along for one more year, or are they gonna use him as a trade tool? Are they going to try to trade for a huge pick using DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray? Who knows? Probably not, but that is possibly. And then their best possible record is 10-6. We've seen a lot of 10-6s lately. This is if Kyler Murray takes a step up, like I personally think he will. DeAndre Hopkins thrives in a new environment. Kenyon Drake is an amazing running back. I think 10-6 is the best that I'm willing to say that they go. So 10-6, 5-11, 10-6. That's not that big of a range. 5 games. All right. Now moving on to the 49ers. Their worst possible record is 7-9, and again, this is pretty high. This is, again, Raheem Mostert, he is not very good. He kind of flops. What's it called? Jimmy Garoppolo, he plays, people saw how he kind of didn't play too well towards the end of the Super Bowl. He plays like that at his best this season, and they really just go 7-9. That defense, Richard Sherman, is he still on there? Yeah, Richard Sherman shows his age and isn't playing very well. This whole team goes down the toilet. And again, 7-9 is as bad as I'm willing to say them go. And that's not very bad, actually. So 7-9, bravo, 49ers. Their best possible record, 13-3. They prove everyone wrong. All their haters who are saying that last year was just a fluke and they're going to get worse this season are proven wrong. They go 13-3 and probably have a Super Bowl run again. Maybe they make the Super Bowl, but 13-3, that is pretty good. They kind of prove that they could become a dynasty, which right now a lot of people aren't saying that they will. And then the Rams, their worst possible record, this is Darrell Henderson does not at all, he plays terribly. He cannot make up for the loss of Todd Gurley. He's looked good when he has played, but this year they just proved me wrong. They go 3-13. Jared Goff takes another huge steps back, becomes one of the worst quarterbacks. That defense, which I think is pretty good. Jalen Ramsey does not do very well this season. He plays pretty terribly. Aaron Donald plays worse. I don't see them. I see 3-13 is as bad. I was only going to say them go. All right, and then their best possible record is 12-4. This is Jared Goff takes a huge step up. You saw them last year. They went like 9-7. They looked pretty good. Darrell Henderson plays very well like he has before. He plays great, and he almost makes up for the absence of Todd Gurley. I don't know if he can fully, but he comes close. This whole team takes a huge step up. They go 12-4, and I think that they have the potential to go far in the playoffs to prove that Super Bowl year, while it's been proven to be a fluke, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's possible that they could become a dynasty. Maybe they had a few off years, and now they're back to how they could be. But again, this is just best case scenario. This is a Rams fan's dream. This is not at all. I think in my predictions I had them like at 9-7 or 11-5, something like that. 12-4 is really high up there. Again, neither of these are what I think will happen. These are just the extremes on either end. The Seahawks, their worst possible record is 6-10. This is, Russell Wilson plays horribly. He starts showing his age. He starts slowing down. He starts being worse. Chris Carson starts playing terribly. This defense Bobby Wagner, this whole defense collapses. 6-10 is as bad as I'm willing to say them go. As I'm willing to say them go. That's what I've been saying for every single team, and it's starting to get on my nerves. So 6-10 is as bad as I'm willing to say that they go. And their best possible record is 12-4. This is, again, they are one of the better teams in the league, okay? They are very, very good, but I don't see them going 14-2 or 13-3. That's just way too out there for me. They're great. Yes, they're going to be in contention for this division. All four of these teams right here are really good. This is going to be the most competitive division in the league by far. All four of these teams could win it, all right? And the Seahawks, though, I think that they're great, but I don't think they have the potential to go 13-3, 14-2. I don't think they are one of the best. I don't think they're quite up there with those teams. Moving on to the AFC East, starting off with the Patriots. This is absolute. Cam Newton. You saw him how badly he played after people thought he had recovered from that injury he sustained 2 years ago. And then he gets another injury. And he hasn't played for a while, and he's got a chip on his shoulder, and he doesn't have any weapons. N'Keal Harry and Julian Edelman, sure, but really those are not very good weapons for him. Sony Michel, James White, they don't play well at all. They go 2-14. It's a complete failure. And this is just absolute. If you hate the Patriots like most of us, this is what you want. This would satisfy you so much. But of course, what's probably going to happen is they're somehow going to go 11-5. Cam Newton takes off. He thrives with the chip on his shoulder and the fact that he knows that a lot of people don't believe in him. And he takes off, and this team soars. And, they do have one of the best defenses in the league. It would take a lot for them to get worse. But I do think, again, looking at this, their defense could collapse upon itself. But I do think they're one of the best defenses in the league. And 11-5 is as high as I'm willing to say them go, with the fact that they don't really have any weapons for Cam Newton. If they had weapons, that's what they need to do this offseason. They need to add weapons and help out Cam. And they could go back to being a dynasty. And they could continue being a dynasty. All right, the Bills, their worst record is 8-8. Again, I only give this to the top of the line. The Bills, they have one of the best defenses in the league. And they also have one of the best offenses in the league. You see them, they've got John Brown, they've got the newly added, what's his name? Stephon Diggs. That wide receiver core is one of the best in the league. And not to mention they've got Josh Allen, who's a great quarterback. That defense is spectacular. And this is like Josh Allen starts playing terribly. That defense, I don't see how it could get bad. But it somehow gets bad. And I think 8-8 is as bad as I'm going to say them go. They don't get a winning record. And, that's just it. And their best record is 13-3. They play really like they should. Josh Allen takes advantage of all the weapons that he has. He takes advantage of his speed. He takes advantage of their great defense. And I think that 13-3 is a viable option here. All right? 13-3. This is, they probably come very close to winning the Super Bowl in this scenario. All right, moving on to the Dolphins. Their worst possible is 2-14. Things just get worse. Ryan Fitzpatrick in those first couple of games, or however long he plays, is at his worst. He plays absolutely terribly. The rest of their team completely collapses under the pressure that people think they might be good this year. And, look at them. They don't really have any good players on that team. And I think it shows this season. In their worst possible record, at least in this scenario, they go 2-14. Tua Tagovailoa is a bust. He somehow, he doesn't play good. Even if he does play good, they're still not gonna. Really, their best record is 7-9. People, at their best, Tua Tagovailoa takes the little stuff that they're giving him, and he wins probably 5 or 6 of those games right there.
And I think Ryan Fitzpatrick, he plays at his best, and at his best, he can win games. And I feel like 7-9, this is what you want. Dolphins fans, now this isn't them making the playoffs. This isn't them. I mean, look, their best is worse than the Bills' worst. This is them improving. They went like 5-11 last year. You can see them. They start improving. They're going in the right direction. Next year, for all we know, this will be their worst. They have another draft of them being probably in the top. They have another draft to add stuff, another offseason. If they play this next offseason right, they could potentially have their best at 9-7, 10-6. But right now, I think 7-9 is as good as I'm willing to say they go. The Jets, their worst is 1-15. There's very few teams that I put 1-15. 2-14, 2-14, 3-13, sure. 1-15, low. I don't think the Jets really have an offense, period. It shows, Sam Darnold plays absolutely horrendously. I mean, he doesn't make a single pass this whole season. Le'Veon Bell is absolutely atrocious. I mean, he gets like 1 yard per carry. I mean, for all we know, Sam Darnold gets mono again. I don't know. And this defense is really, I mean, they lost Jamal Adams. And, I mean, Bernard McDougal, he's an okay. But, I mean, really, it's going to be all about Quinnen Williams, who, again, wasn't that spectacular last year. So, I think this is actually a pretty likely one. And then their best is 6-10. Somehow even worse than the Dolphins. I mean, I don't really see how this team could get any good. I think this is, again, if you're a Jets fan, this is probably not what you want to happen. This is like the one team. The Dolphins are getting better. With the Jets, it's like this is as good as it's going to get. If you're a Jets fan, you have to understand that 6-10 is as good as it's going to get. I don't care what NFL quote-unquote analyst tells you. They have the same. People always tell me that my opinion is worse, is less factual because some person who works with the NFL says something different. You need to understand, they have the same stats that I do. They're looking at the same stats that I am. They're watching the same film that I am, the same games, the same teams, and I am saying they go 6-10. My opinion is just as valid as theirs. Moving on to the NFC East, where I have my personal favorite team, Washington. I'm always so scared of that bias, but I have to understand that 2-14 is a possibility. I mean, they really, their worst, I mean, is everything collapses. Terry McLaurin plays worse. Dwayne Haskins doesn't get any better than how he was last year. Well, actually, he gets worse because he was actually pretty good towards the end of the season. So this whole team regresses. I mean, Young is a complete draft bust. They go 2-14, and I mean, all the Washington haters are proven correct. Their best possible record is 10-6. Dwayne Haskins shows that he has taken progress throughout the offseason. He gets much better. They take advantage of the fact that they have, Jeremy Sprinkle. They've got Terry McLaurin. They have got Steven Sims. And yes, they did lose Darius Geis, but they have Antonio Gibson behind him. They have Peyton Barber behind him. They have Bryce Love behind him. They have lots of talent in that running back room, not just Darius Geis. I think 10-6 is, again, a far stretch. Both of these are a far stretch. 2-14 is definitely more possible than 10-6, but both of them are a stretch. All right? And the Cowboys, their worst possible record is, of course, 5-11, which is, if you've seen, this is pretty high. I think I'm pretty hard on them when I do my predictions. I mean, honestly, they do have lots of talent. They have one of the best wide receiver units. I'm not a big believer in Dak Prescott, and I think this kind of shows. I mean, their wide receiver unit completely falters this season. Dak Prescott shows he plays like let's be honest, this is a Carsonian Beans record. This is what I want to happen. I know it's a stretch, but this is what I want to happen. I mean, this is a Carsonian Beans record. This is what I want to happen. I'm a Washington fan. I'm a Cowboys hater. I'm kind of like showing you, I want the Cowboys to go 5-11. That would be great. But I understand that it's probably not going to happen, but I understand that it could happen. I want Washington to go 10-6. But really, I'd be happy with 6-10. So, the Cowboys go 5-11. That's their worst possible record. Their best possible record is probably more likely is 13-3. This is, again, a far stretch. This is Dak Prescott completely proves me wrong, blows me out of the water, freaking kicks me into outer space. Ezekiel Elliott takes off, plays as well, plays up to the height that he has had. Their wide receiver unit basically stays the same. Their defense, Leighton Vander Esch, that whole defense just takes a step up, and 13-3, and they prove everyone like me wrong, and they prove all the Cowboys fans right. So, the Eagles, their worst possible record is 4-12. This is Carson Wentz. Probably, I don't know, gets hurt or something.
Nah, but really, I mean, he could, if he's healthy, which I'm assuming he's going to be healthy throughout this whole season. That's another thing. A lot of this could change if there are any injuries. With the Eagles, 4-12 is if Carson Wentz just plays terribly or he gets injured. And really, their defense doesn't play very well. And basically, you get the gist of it. So 4-12 is bad. I'm going to say they go. The best is 10-6. This is Carson Wentz plays up to what, all the people. There's a lot of people that believe in him, and I think those people are proven right here. They go. Carson Wentz plays very well. He takes advantage of the fact that they do have somewhat good weapons. Alshon Jeffrey as an example, and I think this offense really leads them to a 10-6 record. Now the worst possible record for the Giants is 1-15. They are just an absolutely atrocious team. I mean, if Daniel Jones doesn't play well at all, Saquon Barkley really plays you saw last year he can be a pretty bad running back if he is not doing too well. And I think the Giants, this is absolutely terrible. I mean, obviously, this is a terrible situation. And the best situation is 7-9. I think this is Daniel Jones. He takes steps up. Saquon Barkley definitely helps this team, and I think they can go 7-9, which again is a pretty good record for the Giants. All right, moving on. How long? This video is like 50 minutes long already. I'm so sorry. All right, so the Texans, their worst possible record is 6-10. Now they completely collapsed without DeAndre Hopkins. Willie Snead completely collapses. David Johnson really does nothing. He plays terribly, shows his age, and they go 6-10, which again isn't very bad, but it's still pretty bad. Their best record is 12-4. They thrive with everyone's starting to saying that the Texans aren't going to do too hot, and I think they thrive in that, and they go 12-4. Willie Snead takes over for DeAndre Hopkins somehow. Deshaun Watson shows some of his magic, and they go 12-4. That defense takes steps forward, and they go 12-4. Probably come close to winning the division, if not winning it. The Jaguars' worst possible record is 1-15. They're one of the worst teams in the league. I don't really believe in Gardner Minshew. I think Gardner Minshew plays pretty badly in this game. Not in this game, but in this scenario. And 1-15. Their best possible record is 6-10. This is, Leonard Fournette takes strides. He becomes, really shows that just despite his age, he still got it. He still got it. Gardner Minshew plays like he did in the first couple of games that he played in last year, and they go 6-10. All right, now the Colts, their best possible record is 5-11. Phillip Rivers, he goes to another team, and it's just like when so many players, like you see that so many great players, they get older, they go to another team, and everyone forgets that Joe Montana went to the Chiefs. Everyone will forget that Phillip Rivers ever went to the Colts if they go 5-11. Because believe me, I have a feeling if they go 5-11, Phillip Rivers is going to be kicked out of there, and that might be the last place that he goes for his career, at least starting wise. Now, their best possible record is 10-6. This is Phillip Rivers utilizes all the weapons that he has, and they fly through this season, and they go 10-6. The Titans, their worst possible record is 6-10. Ryan Tannehill, he kind of turns into a Nick Foles type player where it's kind of like he comes into this last season and he didn't really have any expectations, and he blew all the expectations they did have out of the water. Then he comes back the next season and he plays kind of like he did in Miami, and he does pretty badly. Derrick Henry has one of his down years, and it's just not pretty. The worst possible year, Derrick Henry plays amazingly. Ryan Tannehill proves that it wasn't a fluke last year. And their defense, Malcolm Butler plays really well. That whole defense takes strides, and they go 13-3, probably winning this division. Definitely winning this division, as you can see. Yeah.
So, moving on to the NFC South, we have the Panthers. Their worst pass record is 4-12. This is Christian McCaffrey. Doesn't play as well as he has in the past couple of years. I mean, really, it's just, Teddy Bridgewater isn't good on this new team. He plays worse than he did in New Orleans. This defense, you see they have so many new rookies in there that, this defense really kind of flails because it's just, they're kind of a really new, thrown together team. The Panthers of 2020 is completely different than the Panthers of 2019. Now, the best possible record is 9-7. Teddy Bridgewater plays great in Carolina. This obviously their defense is going to take a while to get it together, but I think all the rookies play very well, and I think 9-7, possibly making the playoffs, is definitely something that could happen. Again, it's a stretch, but I definitely think that they are a team that could sneak in the wild card and surprise everybody. Now, moving on to the Buccaneers, their worst possible record is 6-10. Tom Brady shows that he was really a system quarterback. It was really all Belichick, no one pulling all the strings, getting them to the wins. Rob Gronkowski, he hasn't played in a year, probably. Obviously, he took a job with Fox. He didn't expect to play. Obviously. For all we know, he never kept in shape. So 6-10 is as bad as it gets. And then, best scenario, 12-4. Mike Evans, Chris Jones, Tom Brady he has a lot of new weapons to play with, and it shows here. He throws to Mike Evans, Chris Jones. He plays far better than he did when he was with New England. You see they've got Ronald Jones too, who is a pretty good running back. You see him, he takes strides forward. He becomes a very good running back. That defense, that very strong defense, plays well, and it definitely helps them out to a 12-4 record. Now, moving on to the Saints. Their worst possible record is 8-8. Now you're starting to understand how rare it is to see a team get 8-8 on my predictions. They are, obviously, I think the Saints are one of the best teams in the whole entire league. You look at this absolutely spectacular offense. I think it would take Drew Brees to really age really far in 1 year to this is the year. If they go 8-8, this would be the year where Drew Brees starts to kind of turn into an Eli Manning type quarterback where he starts to get old. Now, of course, 8-8, he's still going to be a pretty good quarterback, but I don't really see it happening. Maybe Marcus Davenport gets hurt or something. I don't know. Somehow this defense gets bad. Their best possible record is 15-1. Their best record in their history is 13-3. They've never gone 14-2, and now they go 15-1. This is Drew Brees plays just as well as he had before, maybe playing even better than he ever has before, getting better with age. Michael Thomas plays absolutely spectacularly. Marcus Davenport, that whole defense plays amazingly, and I think 15-1 is probably more likely than 8-8 for this team, and they probably very easily win the whole NFC. All right, moving on to the Falcons. Their worst possible record is 2-14. Matt Ryan doesn't play well. If they do go 12-14, 2-14. I'm so sorry. I've been recording this video for like 13 hours. Then I think Matt Ryan, this might be one of the last years that Matt Ryan is going to be with the Falcons if this actually does happen. Their defense doesn't play well. Julio Jones has a very off year. And this is just absolutely, I really don't see it happening, but this is definitely a possibility. Best possible record is 7-9 in my opinion. Matt Ryan plays well, Julio Jones plays well, and they carried that whole offense, and they go 7-9. I don't really see very much talent on that defense. I didn't mean to click and send it over here. The way I have it, it's just a Google slide, so every time I click or accidentally touch the screen, because it's a touch screen, it goes on to another slide, so I'm sorry about that. Moving on to the Ravens, their worst possible record is 9-7. That might be the highest worst possible record ever in my prediction thing. But I do think 9-7 is as bad as it gets. I don't see them having a losing season this year. That is, or not having a winning season. That is so far-fetched to me. 9-7 is such a terrible record for the Ravens, and they probably still make the playoffs. There's no way they don't. If you're a Ravens hater, you have to understand that they're probably going to make the playoffs no matter what. This is going to be a very, very tough division for any of these teams to win it. They are so far above the rest of them. I mean, it's insane. I mean, I don't know what has to happen, but something must completely go wrong for them to go 9-7. The best possible record is 15-1. I mean, Lamar Jackson somehow gets even better. Joe Mixon, obviously Joe Mixon could obviously take strides. But Hollywood Brown plays great. This whole team, that amazing defense gets even. I don't see how they could get even better, but 15-1 is definitely a possibility for this team. And I think that is as good as it's going to get. The Steelers' worst possible record is 4-12. Big Ben is just an old man. Juju Smith doesn't come back and play very well. Their whole offense really gets worse, and like I said, their offense is better than their defense right now. And, their defense isn't very good. I've even heard Steelers fans admitting that. I don't really think anyone – I think everyone kind of understands that the Steelers' defense isn't very good, and I don't think that helps. But I do think that their offense does have a lot of talent, and that keeps them from going 3-13, 2-14. Best possible record is 11-5. Big Ben completely proves me wrong. He plays like he has in years past. Juju, they comes back and their offense is a huge powerhouse. Maybe their defense steps it up. I still don't think that there's any way their defense is going to be better than their offense, but I think their defense can become very good. They're definitely going to be an offensive-minded team. And 11-5. That's also a lot of people said, oh, you base their whole thing around their offense. If you take the best, a team with the best running backs and wide receivers and tight ends, and give them a terrible quarterback, that offense will not be good, right? And if you take a team that's heavily reliant on that offense, and that offense is not good, then that team will not be very good. And that's kind of how I'm seeing the Steelers right now. But 11-5, I'm going to have to give that to them. That is as good as I'm willing to say it can go. So 10-6, 9-7, those are possibilities. And the Bengals, their worst possible record is 4-12. Joe Burrow is a complete bust. T. Higgins doesn't play well. Their whole offense they boosted their offense during this offseason. And all that completely fails. They basically go back to how they were last year. Just Joe Burrow was obviously better than Finley and Dalton. And they go 4-12. Because they did get better. And I don't see them going back to being 2-14. They definitely got better this season. Even their worst possible record is better than their record of last year. There's no way they go 2-14, right? Right? Future me, if you're watching this and they're 2-14, I'm sorry that I ruined your career. All right, now the Bengals, their best possible record is 8-8. This is not. You probably expected it to be higher, but this is as good as I'm willing to say it can go because this is Joe Burrow's first year. This is Higgins' first year. They're kind of a brand new team, and you see, it's going to take some years for this thing to get going. And I think their best possible record is to go 8-8, and then next year they add some pieces to the offseason, maybe some pieces on defense. They get even better, and they go 10-6, 9-7. This is if you're a Bengals fan, 8-8 is probably what you want to see. They go up 6 games from last season. All right, and the Browns, 5-11. They go 5-11. This is, with Kitchens gone, they definitely got better. They do have an insane amount of talent. That talent, they played terribly. That new head coach they brought in is not a good one, almost as bad as Kitchens. And they just go 5-11. Their best possible record is 9-7. This is Mayfield plays like he has in years past. They had Landry and Beckham. They play great. With Kitchens gone, their play calling gets much, much better, and they end up going 9-7, making the playoffs, probably making a run to try and win this division. This is what, if you are a Browns fan, you probably want them to go 9-7. They prove everybody wrong, and then in the next couple of years, they probably play close to how the hype was last year. The last division. If you've been sticking with me through this whole video, comment apricot, and I will shout you out. And this is you've watched the whole video. All right, all of it, the whole thing. All right, and the Vikings, their worst possible record is 7-9. This is, with the loss of Stephon Diggs, they play terribly. Justin Jefferson does not play up to speed. Rudolph gets worse. Adam Thielen gets worse, which we've seen them kind of falter in years past, but it really turns on them. But that's okay. They've got Dalvin Cook. They kind of leaned on him a lot last year, and he plays worse. This whole offense collides.
their defense, I don't really see how that could get worse, but somehow it does. And they go 7-9, which again isn't a very bad record, but it's still pretty bad. Their best possible record is 13-3. They play very, very, very well. You see that Kirk Cousins plays at the top of his game. Justin Jefferson comes out of college roaring, ready to go, and they what's it called? And they go 13-3. They become one of the best teams in the league. Kirk Cousins cements his legacy. Everyone in the future thinks of him as a player who made the Vikings really good. Maybe they make their first Super Bowl win. Who knows? I mean, they've been in like 4 or 5 Super Bowls after the merger, and they haven't won any. That is still crazy. Packers, worst possible record, 8-8. Aaron Rodgers, they don't really have any. The fact that they don't really have that many weapons kind of catches up with them, and they end up playing pretty badly. I mean, 8-8 isn't a bad worst record. But I do think that it's definitely not anywhere near as good as the Packers probably will be this season. Just give me a second. Sorry about that. When you record a 40-minute video, something's bound to come out. My 3-year-old brother actually just walked in, so I had to usher him out. Sorry about that. And the best possible record is 13-3. Hope they're with the Vikings. They have an amazing. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. They do. I mean, you got Devontae Adams, you got Aaron Jones. They do have an amazing offense. That defense is still very powerful, and 13-3 is what I think. The Lions, their worst possible record is 3-13. This is actually pretty close to what probably is going to happen. This isn't very far-fetched. I mean, Matthew Stafford plays worse than I think he will. Kenny Galladay doesn't play very well. Kerryon Johnson doesn't play this offseason. This offense, which is really what they're going to be focusing on this season, is going to be a very offensive team. Their offense kind of collapses. Their best possible is 8-8. I mean, Matthew Stafford, he plays really well. Kenyon Johnson? I forgot his name. Kerryon Johnson is a great running back, and I think 8-8 is pretty well. Their O-line takes a step up. Their defense, which I don't think is very good, plays up to, better than what I think they will, and they go 8-8. Now the Bears, the last team we have to do, I think. The Bears, their worst possible record is 2-14. I think, Nick Foles plays kind of like he normally does when he starts a team, which is absolutely atrocious. It'll be weird because in the future, everyone will be talking about how weird it was that, Nick Foles, who never really played well, won a Super Bowl. I don't know. Best possible record is 7-9. This is Nick Foles plays pretty well. Mitch Trubisky plays pretty well, whichever one. If it's the best possible scenario, it's probably Mitch Trubisky in there. And David Montgomery plays great. Tariq Cohen takes steps up, and they end up going 7-9. I cannot explain to you how happy I am to get that video out of the way. I've been planning this video for so long. I want you guys to take a look at something real quick. So look, if we exit out of here, so y'all saw what the heck? So y'all saw how long that was, right? I want you guys to take a look at this on the left. And this is probably an hour-long video by now. It's 6 o'clock. All right, I don't know, but look at this. So, take a look at this. Anyways, go ahead and let me know what you think that your favorite team worst and best possible record is. I'd be interested in seeing that. Let me know. You can, tweet at me. I don't know. All my socials are in the description. I'm trying to start a podcast so I can talk about stuff like this possibly every day. And I have a Patreon for that, so that, go ahead down there. But I had to create every single one of these slides. And I had to do it today because
I actually have this thing for school that I have to do tomorrow, because like we're doing online school. We have to. I don't want to explain it to you. I just don't. I'm trying to see. So it ended up being 72, 73 whole slides. So if you were watching this, you're thinking, oh, so much, comment apricot, please. 40 minutes long. Encoding overloaded. Consider shutting down. Thank you guys for watching. This wasn't one of my best videos, but I do hope you enjoyed it. Again, let me know in the comments what you think about your favorite team, and I'll see you guys in the next one.